Alrighty, guys. This is the Purpose Project, and I believe this is video either 10 or 11. And we have a guest, Zach, here. He's a close friend of mine. Close friend. He's a friend that I've kept in touch with over the years. And typically I've actually ended the video with this, but I just want to just to get the message out, to anyone who doesn't finish the videos. Just be kind. Um, is try to wear this every time on the Purpose Project. I think on top of all the wisdom that I personally have, simply being kind, seriously, is one of the main things that anyone can do. And also shout out to Zoom for allowing us to hop on the podcast here. I'm not sure, Zach, if you've actually watched any of my previous videos, but I've allowed the guests to introduce themselves a little. Tell us maybe, anything about yourself that, you think is interesting or encapsulating of your life.
Well, my name is Zach Placencia. I guess most important thing I can say about myself is a Christian. Uh, that's my rock. Um, Also do art on the side and uh, work in as a caregiver. So um, yeah, that's a summary.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's, those are two awesome things. I mean, a Christian, I'll try to stay, I'd love to talk about religion. I know this really isn't hugely a business thing, so I guess we have more leeway to talk about religion and stuff. I mean, I'm actually getting into, you know, the Catholic faith, which is, I guess, a subset of Christianity. I'm definitely trying to make that a pillar of my life. Um, Zach knows. I mean, whenever Zach and I are around each other, we'd I can't really recall any particular conversations, but I know we, often talked about philosophy and religion, um, which are two, religion's more loaded and more stigmatized than I think, philosophy. But you know, I think, religion obviously is a key, theme of humanity. So I guess, yeah, my first question is, from knowing you like I do, you've chosen a life of service. How did you come about this decision? And do you foresee this life of service happening for the rest of your life?
In one form or another, yeah. Um, I definitely believe it's calling, serve serve people, to assist in any way that can um, help them uh, better themselves, or they just need an ear. Yeah, I think that's something yeah, definitely gonna continue.
I think, I was talking with, I can't remember who, I think it was in my recent video that I actually haven't posted yet, but we were talking about, whenever you grow up and stuff, you think like it's all of your parents' responsibility to actually raise like the child. But actually, it's more so like teachers and mentors and guys like you, and eventually I hope to be among this group that you're involved in, and as well as, other teachers and counselors among that group. I think those are actually the people that have, more of an impact on the child's development than the parents. Because if you think about it, you go to school from 7 to 3 every day. You're basically with your parents, during the summers and, before school and after school. But if your parents are working a 9 to 5 job, then you barely even see them. So I think, it's actually a huge impact. Maybe not one individual in particular, but just, and kind of like not one Christian in particular, not one, Republican or Democrat in particular, but in whatever think is best for yourself and others, we can all identify with a team of individuals that can really drastically change the world. I think that's what Christianity is all about. I think is uniting under a common principle or a common God, and it's kind of the basics of teamwork and dedication towards something greater than all of us. I think that well, it may not sound like I am being sincere about this. I mean, I've been through it, and it's yes, it takes your effort, and also, you know, the people who you're working with. It also takes them to provide an effort to actually change their life, but you can do best to provide a spark and be there as a rock or a person for support. Because I think there are people that are involved in these types of things that don't really have the person's best interest, whether it be, in, any rehabilitation centers that are drug, mental health, even elderly programs. I'm sure there are definitely individuals that do not have, the person's best interest and, are focusing on themselves or, really maybe something that opposes, the goodness of our world. Um, so I think, I don't know you entirely too well, but from whenever we've known each other, it seems like, you're a pretty good dude. So um I think, like I said, be kind is, a key theme of life. And, I think the more people out there that, truly care about, generally speaking, I know it's really impossible, it's tough to be super motivated and there for support all the time, but generally just knowing that there's someone out there that with the group of people that you're involved with that are trying to figure out the situation. Yeah, that's encouraging, I think. And I guess my second question is, what do you think it means to be a man in the world? What should a man look like to you? And what characteristics uh does a man in your eyes generally aim to be?
So, I think one of the biggest things is having integrity, um, and conviction for what you know to be true, and following through with that, holding uh, true to that, um, and having courage too. It takes courage to sometimes to stick with that, with your beliefs, your foundation. Um, Also, being of service to others, um, being peaceable, trying to let go of pride, uh, superficial ego. Um, I think also being a protector for those who are weaker or can't advocate for themselves.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I think that point right there, I mean, I think, in Christianity and the Bible, I've actually just you recently started getting into the Bible, and I've said this in my last video, and I'll say it again. Anybody that's a Catholic or Christian, even other religions such as, I don't know what Zach, I know Zach is familiar with, the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints. They read the Bible as well. There's a bunch of religions that read the Bible other than Christianity. Um, but the Bible definitely talks about, strength and weakness. And I think, as Zach's saying, talking about, this thing of pride, and this is something I've thought about a lot, for myself, I've questioned, I don't know if anyone else is watching this, questions this, you know, am I selfless? Am I prideless? Do I not care about myself? I think trying to find a balance between all of those things is probably ideal. but it's, ideal is something that we don't often see in the world. Um, I think, for myself, I think it's important for other people around me to know that, like being super energized and ambitious and motivated, it's really difficult to be that person all of the time. And I think we all have moments of weakness. It just varies on the individual. I think personally, some people are just made stronger than other people. Not even saying men or women, but just a particular set of individuals are just made physically stronger than other individuals. Um, and that's just how it is, what I'm saying? It's just something that, from it's my opinion. As you say, what you know to be true. I think it's just, it's an actual thing that actually exists in our reality. I think, my generation, and maybe, your generation, you're a little older than me, has gotten used to kind of just like brushing things off and not really believing in themselves or, any religion or just really anything, just kind of like, you know, really not being too passionate about anything. Um, I think for me, on top of all the things you wrote down in terms of, service, integrity, conviction with what you know to be true, um, letting go of pride, but also protecting. I think a huge thing is dedicating yourself um, to your values and loyalty to your values for yourself. It's one thing to figure out. And I was on almost a spiritual quest a couple years back whenever we met, and this thing of values kept coming up here and again and again. I never really thought about it, in 20 years before that. I never really thought about values. I never really thought about that. But that's, the seeds of who you are as a person. And, I think if you can find your values is one thing, but actually implementing your values every single day is another thing. And especially when you're weak, you're going to fall, as the Bible says, to temptation. And I've been, over the past, that's something that I've been maybe struggling with at times is whenever I'm weak, I might start complaining, I might start to doubt myself, all these negative things that aren't going to benefit me the next day or the day after or 10 years later. It's just going to hold me back and keep me procrastinating from what I want to do in life, which is ultimately be successful both financially and emotionally. Um, I think, a man for myself, this might be almost revolutionary because I've never heard anyone say this online, is something that's a given. Um, you know, I'm not really saying anything about, the gender culture, but I think, a man, there are things in life like a mountain is a mountain. You can't change a mountain. You know what I'm saying? The sun is the sun. It just exists as that. And a man is a man, a woman is a woman. And,
Yeah.
there's, they're getting, we can I don't know if we're going to get into all of this, which is interesting to me, all of this, new gender stuff, non-binary, all of this stuff. But I think, a man is a man, and it's one thing to know of yourself as a man, but it's, another thing to figure out what traits a man, in an ideal world, or a man to you would carry on in their life. And I think what you said also, I don't know if I wrote this down. Oh, yeah, I wrote it down and I said it, but emphasis on, like protection. Because oftentimes, not all of the time, but oftentimes, a man is, maybe physically stronger than a woman. And I don't really think that's anything for a woman to be insecure about. It is just how it is. And that's why,
Yeah.
maybe it's a man's duty to, protect and provide. Um, Possibly speaking, for a woman, in addition to, I mean, I think, in addition to religion, a lot of these, these principles that have guided us to the place we're currently at are just being kind of neglected. Um, you don't really see an old-fashioned, you know, truly religious man walking around too many times nowadays. I don't even know if that ever existed, to be honest with you. Someone that truly embodies, their religion. Um, But it's an interesting topic, what is, because I've heard people kind of joke about like, oh, what does it mean to be a woman? Um, you hear more stuff talking about, what does it mean to be a man? But I was just curious, more so what you or really anyone else that's watching this thinks a man is and thinks, what a man should be doing on a daily basis or just generally throughout their lives. And then the third question is, what are your viewpoints on science and evolution? If you have any, do you think this is beneficial or not to society? And this kind of contradicts religion in some cases.
Uh, I I think science is great. Um, I think science uh, it's finds truth. It finds truth through you know creation, what the creator, how he designed everything, how intricate everything is, and how it has a purpose and there is reasoning. I think science can actually have more benefit to pointing to God. As far as evolution, that's that's just a hypothesis. Um, it's not it's not law. It's just a theory that they have made, and it goes against biblical teachings, which I believe is fact and is law. Um, but
Yeah, I mean, I guess we with evolution we don't really know for certain because you can't really be at two-point moments of time at once. Personally, you know, I 100% agree with, what you're like 100% agree with what you're saying about how science, you hear of this talk about, I'm big on Elon Musk. If anyone knows, my videos, I often talk about Elon Musk and all of these, big entrepreneurs. He talks about, how physics, he studied physics and, as an explanation to, as you're saying, the creator, or, uh, as an analysis of, some of the patterns that we see in each other and also the greater world around us, in an effort to, possibly promote life and also, just try to answer some questions that we, weren't necessarily familiar with. Um, but yeah, it's interesting. You said, evolution as theory, because yeah, evolution sometimes might, you know, disprove some things that are in religion, specifically Catholicism and Christianity. Um, but I have to inform myself a little bit better about, the relationship between science and religion. I'm not really sure if there's too much of a conflict there, myself, but it's interesting. Um, I think, I'm a big proponent of evolution because I like to think that it exists. Um, I like to think that our bodies can evolve in our benefit and heal and do all these amazing things. Um, but at the same time, it's oftentimes, things that we want to be true aren't necessarily true. Um, so it's kind of tough to, pinpoint evolution in life. And, it would kind of be interesting if it didn't exist, to be honest. Because it's like, how did we get, how did we how did we just appear as human? Um, would be I think it's natural to think that, we started as, bacteria and then slowly but surely just started building up and up and up and up and up and until we somehow got to human form. But, you know, yeah, that's you know, it's an interesting topic of conversation, evolution. Then my fourth question is, what is the importance to you of making personal convictions through lived experience versus being more guided by others? And how do you see it all faith coming into play in this particular discussion? So let me clarify. I guess the question is, it's like, do you have to live through something to believe in it? are you able to, have faith and believe what others tell you? Uh, does that make sense?
I think I know what you mean. Like, um, as far as maybe hearing someone else's experience and kind of taking that uh, to being true, that their experience, um, like the results of whatever they experience. Is that
Yeah, I
what
mean,
you
it's kind
mean?
of like, I guess something that would relate to, um, it's kind of like, a lot of principles that are implied in the Bible, a lot of things that are implied in the Bible. Um, it all comes down because like faith, that what like faith is basically like, a belief in something that you've never experienced, a belief in something greater than yourself, because none of us have, likely ever met God. Assuming you think God is a particular person that has created us all, somehow. And, faith is, believing like, oh, I can get this job, is believing that, oh, I can get this job even whenever you're at point A, instead of point Z when you have the job. Faith is believing in something that isn't here yet. Even like, a lot of people have faith that after we die, we go to heaven. Um, uh, so, but a lot of people, you know, have to believe in something. You don't believe in something until it happens to them. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, like if someone says, "Oh, this like pepper is really hot," you know, someone might say like not believe them. But unless, they tried it, then like once they experienced it, then they'd be like, "Oh, yes, like the pepper is definitely hot." Or some people might say like, "Oh, like I have faith in you. I believe you that that pepper is hot. I don't like hot peppers, so I don't which type of person would you say you are? More like someone that's, I guess, more trusting and faithful, or someone that's more, hesitant and wanting to experience something before making a conviction?
Okay. Um, I try to make my decisions based on uh, through the Bible, the Word of God, um, seeing that wisdom and trying to apply it to my decision, my choice making. So I try to avoid, going in certain directions by taking that advice. Um, so yeah, in some way, yeah, I do, take the advice of others rather than just, trying to experience it myself. Um, but then again, am I not perfect? I'm still gotta go against that sometimes, and then usually find out oh, I should have done that. you know,
Yeah, I mean, I think yeah, that would definitely. I mean, yeah, I think you definitely, yeah, because one, I'm not doubting you in any sense, but it's like, you and I can say something. My thing is like recently, like, oh, you can say the sky is purple, but obviously it's blue. You can say the sun is, I almost said red, and the sun actually is red in like space photos. You can say the sun is, blue, and the sun is red, orange, or yellow. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, me and you can say something, but we can live on a completely different way. Um, Anybody can do that. Some people would say, oh, that's lying or deception. Um, but it's kind of like based off of what you were saying, it seems as though you're the type of person that, you know, chooses faith over, I'm sure, all of us, make decisions, reactionary decisions based off of, things we've experienced. Um, I think that's natural, but I think, I'm also someone, I think, that shows that maybe you're a good listener. I think that's something I wrote down. You said you make decisions through the word of God. So basically, you're listening or reading the Bible, and you're basically seeing like, oh, because I've had friends tell me like, the Bible is basically a guidebook to life, that's existed for thousands of years. Um, thousands of years. So, um, you know, I think, yeah, I mean, it was, I think, yeah, you definitely, possibly you and I are more so a person of, faith and belief opposed to a person of, you know, in a optimistic way, wanting to experience something in a pessimistic way, maybe being more stubborn to, uh, maybe resisting some of the forces of nature or God. Because some people really, and it's really a sad thing, to be honest with you, really close themselves out of the world. And, it's something that I've battled at times personally is whenever I'm experiencing weakness or difficulties, whether it be physical or mental, um, sometimes like I personally will just close myself out to the world and give up on all of my goals and really just disassociate from, my entire existence. And that's just not the way to do it. You got to put yourself out there no matter what. And, that's if you can embody that, it's not, you don't have to be super rigid all the time. And clearly me and you are not super rigid. And we both are reading the Bible. And I would, you say you're a Christian, I would, call myself a Catholic. I'm interested in other religions and Buddhism, all of these other religions. But, I'm a Catholic. I've gone to church pretty much every Sunday for the past 4 or 5 months. I love the homily, I'm learning the prayers and stuff. So, um, and you don't have to agree with everything that's in religion. I think it's a testament of faith, truly, if you do, abide by pretty much every single thing that is in the Bible or generally most things. I think that's a true testament of faith and belief in something greater than, any of us. Um, and I've met a few people that, in life that, a few people in life that really live by that. Um, yeah, I think, let's move on to next question. How do you personally see expectations or standards playing out in your life? Do you have high expectations of yourself and let those down generally, or do you have lower levels of expectations and exceed what you think you can do generally and oftentimes speaking?
Hmm. Um, I think over the years, definitely have lowered my expectations. Um, Somewhat in myself, yeah, in myself, leaning more towards, leaning Holy Spirit. Um, Also, my expectations of people has lowered. Um, Not putting so much, um, I don't know, trust or uh, how would I word that? Just knowing that people are gonna make mistakes and can't always, give you exactly what you need. Um,
Yeah, I mean, I think that's, yeah, lower expect. I mean, typically, as you progress through life, I mean, something that I've learned is, being around all sorts of types of age groups of individuals and all of the experiences and places I've been to, typically when you're younger, you don't really have expectations because you have no idea what's going on. And as you start to figure out things about yourself and meet other people, sometimes if you meet some amazing person that's got your back and is uplifting and supportive and pretty much, you know, like basically like, an angel or someone that's, out of this world. Um, and then you meet someone that's, actively trying to harm you and manipulate you and, take from you and just, the complete opposite. You're like, what do I do? It's like, a lot of people will just say, oh, I'm not going to trust anybody. because I don't really know. I mean, it's really tough to say, whether someone has got your back or not. Um, and it might vary on the daily, to be honest with you. So, I think, as people move on in life, you can only experience, more harm. You can experience good moments, but as you move on in life, your body deteriorates. You're gonna have physical problems. You're gonna have, probably toxic relationships come up. And especially in your work, it's like, I mean, the people who you're around, maybe it affects some people more than others, but it's just objective that, we feed off of the people we're around. So that's why I think anyone that's involved in a life of, service, involved in, rehabilitation centers, mental health treatment centers, any of these things, I mean, it can really callous you, but it can also really destroy you. Because, it's like you lower your expectations of, because that's your circle, like that's all you know. I mean, you can go to social media as an outlet for, nowadays, but it's like, like a lot of the people that you and I were around when we were together, not to get too specific, but you know, I mean, just really not great influences on either of us. And I know in the moment, I brushed it off and stuff, but it's like it can really eat away at you. It can get to you. And it's my thing always is, be kind. And I'll always try my best to never talk down. They call it, in the Four Agreements, I think, which is a book we're both familiar with. They call it kind of I think black magic, gossip, black magic. Because it's like, both of us have been to high school, it's almost like, it's so like it's so attractive, to gossip.
Oh
And
yeah.
isn't it, it's like, but it's just such a horrible thing a lot of times because it's like, you know, oftentimes the person you might be gossiping about is just already having a tough time and just sending all of that, negative, prayer or even thought, towards that person is just, it's just going to make it worse for them. So I think, for myself, I also have lowered my expectations. I have still have high goals, but I've lowered my expectations. Because if you lower your expectations, I think, you're more likely to become surprised in life and you're
Yeah.
more likely to be realistic and also
Less
more, what's up?
less disappointed too.
Less
If
disappointed. Yeah, 100%. Um, I think also the downside of having lower expectations is that you get used to having lower expectations. I was always so big upon, and this is kind of like a, polarizing thing, so be mindful, but it's like if you get used to bad things happening to you, if you have like an injury, or a condition or something, if you just get used to always thinking about that, then it's just going to be more likely that it's just going to keep flaring up in you. If you just keep getting used to, bad things happening, and not really try to be proactive about it and just let it happen to you, it's like, you know, yeah, you might be, more content, but in the long run, you're not going to see as much growth. Um,
I,
so it's kind of like, I think if you and I were to, change the scripts, because I do have lower expectations of myself right now in my world, but if we were able to change the script and have high expectations of ourselves, almost irrational, at the moment, things that might seem irrational, like, oh, I want to wake up tomorrow and run like 50 miles. It's just like ridiculous goals and stuff. You're gonna fail more often, but if you have like, 100 ridiculous goals, you're gonna accomplish at least one of them most likely, but you're just gonna fail more. So you probably feel bad about yourself more, but you'll accomplish things that you probably never would have thought you could accomplish before. Whereas if you have lower expectations, you'll probably feel better and feel more grounded, but you won't necessarily accomplish as more as you possibly could. I think between the two, you're still gonna, experience failure in both ways. I'll have to think about that again and rewatch this video to analyze that more, but it's an interesting thing for anyone to consider, their level of expectations of themselves and other people around them. Um, I think often like growing up and stuff, like I never even thought about any of this kind of stuff, even philosophy or religion. And I was, exceeded expectations from possibly others. So it's just an interesting thing. Um, but this is
As-
stuff, it's yeah.
oh no, I was just thinking, as far as, I guess in one way, I do have higher expectations of myself um, to be a stronger Christian, um, to live out um, what I believe in, to actually live it out and act on that. So yeah, in one way, yeah, higher expectations in that way. Um,
Yeah, no, I think 100%. I mean, I think, it's difficult just to limit yourself or reduce yourself to, just a person that has low expectations. I think ultimately it comes situation to situation, but generally speaking, I think myself, I've, evolved or just became a person that has lowered my expectations. I still would love to have amazing things happen in my life, but just based on the trajectory of my life at the moment, I'm kind of, taking a seat back as I'm literally doing right now, and more so choosing to observe and not be as, engaged in society as maybe I once was. Um, I think if you can do that and also have the vitality, which basically, I'm sure you've heard that word used before, but basically have the energy. If you can be more reserved and also have the energy to, keep plugging along in any of your endeavors or goals, whether it be, being a Christian or working out more, eating healthier, um, you know, or doing whatever other goals you might have, making more money. It's it's expectations and standards is, I watched a video on Steve Jobs and he talked about standards a lot. And obviously those guys probably have immense expectations and probably have failed, more than the average person. But like I was saying before, if you have 100 hugely high expectations of yourself and one of them succeed, you know, um, it could be a difference maker, not only your life, but also the whole course of humanity. Um, so yeah, I mean, I think, we rolled through pretty much every single question that I had. Zach, I'd love to hop on another podcast with you again, sometime over the near future, whenever you're available. Um, is there anything you'd like to say, specifically to any Christian males out there, that you think would benefit them?
uh, keep learning the Word of God, uh, read the Bible, um, and that will guide your decisions and help you get through this, help you with this life. um, yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I mean, maybe next time we talk more about the Bible itself. I know I've been going through the Bible and highlighting things on that, I think it's called Study Bible is the app that's called. I might be wrong, but highlighting, um, verses of the Bible. Maybe we could go over some of those things, those quotes, as well as talk more about your artwork next time, because it's kind of a interesting situation, with being someone that's creative and also being religious. Oftentimes, people that are creative might be seen as a rebel, whereas, people that are, Catholic or Christian religious are kind of, um, follow the rules and are more rigid. Not saying that you can't be, an artist while also, I just think it's an interesting thing. I think it's a cool thing, to be honest. Um, yeah, I mean, maybe next time we talk about some verses of the Bible and our interpretations of that, as well as, talk about, and even, you could even bring in some of your artwork, because I do remember actually you doing some art. I forgot about that, but I think that'd be super awesome if you could, maybe take a photo of some of these things, send it to me, and I can, share my camera on, the audience, whoever watches these videos could see some of your artwork. Because, I'm pretty sure, uh, from what I recall, you're a pretty talented artist.
Thank you.
Um, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. Those are all my questions. We covered everything that I was thinking about. So yeah, I mean, peace out, Purpose Project. Once again, third time on this video. Be kind, and once again, shout out to Zoom for allowing us to record this session, and you stay tuned for more videos. So thank you, Zach, and let's do it again soon.
Thank you.